Hello again. Just going to relate a couple of life events. Nothing to brag about, trust me. Debated whether I should even talk about this stuff. What's the worst? What is the worth of it? Well, in one of them, God does come into one of them. I think he was probably involved in both of them, but it's a story of hitchhikers. One where I picked up a hitchhiker, and one where I was the hitchhiker. And both of them nearly cost me my life. It's just when I was younger, in my 20s, I wasn't a bad guy. I mean, I liked music, rock music of the time, and I liked to dance. I like pretty women. It's a regular guy, just a regular guy. I wasn't, this was, I wasn't, whatever. So, I don't know why I'm telling these. I just, there's nothing going on. I'm not working still, and not much is going on in my life at all, really, for once. So that means I don't really have any earth-shaking material for this channel, which maybe not a bad thing for me personally. And I'm on a bit of an austerity budget, so I'm not even going anywhere at the moment. So, bored, and I like to tell stories, so I'm going to relate to you two hitchhiker stories. And I'll relate the first one happened when I was in the 82nd Airborne as an infantry squad leader. Buck Sergeant E5. And I was driving home from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to go see my parents in upstate New York. That's about a 14-hour drive, mostly up I-95, right on up through North Carolina, Virginia, all of Pennsylvania, and then I'm in New York, and it's about another hour and a half drive north in New York once you hit the New York border. And I was driving, my car then was a 1968 Mercury Cougar XL. And I don't know if I've got pictures of it with me. If I can find it, I'll stick one in here. But either rate, here's either a picture from the web of my car or an actual picture. So I was headed up north. It was summertime. I was on leave. Picture off. I was on leave, and I was by myself driving up north, and I'd gotten through all of North Carolina, and I was passing through Virginia, going north on I-95. And again, it was midsummer, and I remember I was coming, I'd gone up to get gas and maybe something to eat off the, took the ramp off, and I was getting back on I-95, going down the ramp, and there was a young man hitchhiking. A thin white guy about my size, my age then. And he had his thumb out. So I thought, why not, I pulled over, picked the guy up, and asked him where he was going. And he told me he was hitchhiking to see an Iron Maiden concert. And the Iron Maiden was a British rock band that was pretty big, metal band back in the 80s and the 90s. And I happened to be a fan of them back then, a big fan. So he seemed all right to me, I thought, and he's sitting there next to me talking about, I don't know, concerts he'd seen and how he was hitchhiking his way up there to see that show. And the show was like somewhere in Northern Virginia, which is the way I was headed. And we're just small talk a little bit here and there while I'm driving, 65, going north. And the guy pulls out a knife, right? He pulls out a knife. What a switchblade or anything. I forget the particulars of the knife, but it had a blade maybe that long. And if I'm him, and I was sitting over here driving the car on the right, to his left, he says, "What do you think of my knife?" And he started acting kind of weird, and he went like this, started flashing it around in front of my face, and I'm driving the car. He says, "Huh, you like my knife?" He started acting kind of strange, right? and he pulled a knife on me. And here's the thing. Honestly, maybe this is where my ignorance or slow to anger helped me out. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't even think the guy was trying to rob me, which that would occur to me shortly, but and he's got his knife out, and I'm driving a car, and I said, oh yeah, right? And it just so happened, you have to understand, I was a paratrooper in the infantry. And I had knives. As you know, I've got a channel on knife throwing. So I'm no stranger to knives. I'm not a violent person. There's a difference. All right? I am not a violent person or a criminal. I don't want to stab anybody. I never did, ever in my life. And hopefully probably remained that way all of my life. But I was no stranger to knives. So he's got his knife out, and he's going like this, and I'm sitting here. And he's kind of got it in front of me going like this, waving it around. I said, that's not bad. And I swear, I am not making this up. I had a Marine Corps K-bar knife down between my seat and the door. And it was a huge knife. And I said, what do you think of my knife? And I really meant it. I mean, I wasn't trying to threaten the man, but I had this huge knife, just about this big almost. And I said, yeah, I remember the look on his face. He almost turned a shade of white, and he put his knife away real quick. And that's when it came to me. The guy was trying to rob me or something, you know, just the way he acted. Like, duh. I said, yeah. I said, I use it all the time. When I told him I use it all the time, and I'm flashing this huge knife about like this around, you should have seen the look on his face. He's like, he looked like he was so scared he was going to vomit. And that's when I figured out this guy was no good. And I said, you know something? I said, I think you're going to get out here. And I pulled over, and he got out, and I didn't say a word. I drove off. And that's that. That's that, right? That's all there was to that. I mean, it's really, there's nothing spiritual about this other than maybe my guardian angel was looking out for me. I don't know, but you know, the guy could have stabbed me and hit a vital organ. He could have killed me. You know, doesn't take much. You hit somebody in the right place with a knife stab, you bleed out internally pretty fast. So that's Hitchhiker story number 1. Hitchhiker story number 2. I was a hitchhiker. And this would have been 6 years later. I would have been 30 or 31. And at this point, I was an active duty training sergeant in northern New York, up in the Adirondacks. I was training National Guard infantry companies, and I was a full-time active duty sergeant, training sergeant, to get them all up to speed. Well, that's what I'm doing up there. I'm working, and again, I wasn't a sinful person. I believed in God. I was very devout, and went to church every chance I could get. Drove the church bus, pick up, you know, underprivileged kids. That's another story. I'll tell that sometime. And but I like to, you know, I was living alone. I wasn't married. My marriage was over. I was divorced. And it was the weekend, and I like to socialize. That is just drink some beers with the guys, listen to music. You know, nothing extreme, I'm not talking about getting blasted drunk or anything. Just hang out for some laughs and some music. You know, that's it. No drugs, no liquor. Pretty mellow, really, honestly. And I met this guy at this, I think it was, I don't know, where did I meet him? Is that, one of my friends had a get together somewhere in my town on a Saturday night. And my friends were all married. And we were all like 27, 28, 29 at this point. And there was a guy there. I didn't know him. He showed up. I don't know if anybody knew him, honestly. I'm not going to make up what I don't remember, but I've never seen him before. I do remember that. I've never seen him after this. And he was about our age, and he seemed all right, kind of quiet, kind of strange. Nothing really noticeable. White guy, and the guy he was a white, skinny guy. The first story, The Hitchhiker, he was a white, skinny dude in his late 20s, I would say, or mid 20s. That dude, and you should have seen the look on his face when I pulled out that giant knife, like a Crocodile Dundee moment. I'm going back to the story I already told to get some more glory off of it. And I said, "What do you think of my knife, huh?" You should have seen the look on his face. And I wasn't even threatening. I really meant it. I was just showing him my knife until I figured out what he was doing. And that's when I'm like, oh, I kind of felt like kind of serious. Didn't really say much. I just pulled over and let him out at that point. And he never pulled his freaking knife out again either. Back to the future. So the party's dying down 6 years later in northern New York, up by Lake Champlain, south of Ticonderoga, if that means anything to you. Vermont mountains are 10 miles to my east, and Lake Champlain's there. Lake George is just south of me. Beautiful area. And summertime again. Actually, I think this was closer to autumn. And at any rate, so the party's dying down, and man, I really wanted to go. I wanted to do something yet. And this guy said he was going to Ticonderoga to go see this bar where it was a club where I knew they had a lot of dancing. And believe it or not, yours truly used to love to dance. And I mean, I danced to anything, but mostly it was like contemporary rock of the mid 80s, early 90s, that kind of stuff, you know, but I danced to anything. And again, yes, I did. I was lonely and I didn't get around, honestly. I was a very good looking athletic guy with a good job, but I think I was just so shy, really shy and kind of nerdy. But I didn't mind, you know, look, I said to the guy, "Do you mind if I go along?" Actually, this isn't really a hitchhiker story because I wasn't hitchhiking. You know, he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll bring you up there and I'll bring you back." And I didn't realize how wasted he was because I really didn't interact with the guy much up to that point. But I got in this guy's pickup truck, and it was an older truck. That is to say, it might have been like a 1985 pickup truck with just a small cab. And as soon as we got out of my town, which would have been Whitehall, and we're headed like 17 miles north, up 20 miles north to Ticonderoga, this guy started speeding. I mean, he floored it. And he started crying and said he didn't want to live. And I can't really explain his actions. But he floored that truck. And I don't think he let off the gas for quite a while. And these are windy mountain roads. And I don't know how fast that truck was going, but it was going as full bore out. Maybe 100 miles an hour. And this guy wasn't slowing down for the turns. And I asked him, he said he wanted to die. And I said, "I don't. You know, let me out, man." He wasn't even listening to me. He didn't care. And I'm saying prayers like crazy to God to protect me and to forgive me. I figured there was a real chance I was going to get killed that night. And you better believe I was saying my prayers for protection, big time for protection. And then I just gave it over to God, and I trusted God with my safety at that point. If it was my night to die, then I was going to die. Because as fast as this guy was going, those trucks didn't have any airbags or any, they just had a lap belt, you know, and I didn't have that on either. Nobody wore their lap belt back then. And as fast as he was going, maybe 110, I figured. On those roads, it would have been pretty messy. It would have been over. So I said my prayers, and I didn't know if this guy was just trying to scare me. I tried to feign like I wasn't scared, and in a sense, I wasn't afraid. It was kind of like my parachute jumps. I just trusted it all to God. What will be, will be. though I certainly wanted out of that truck safely. I'm talking to the guy. Apparently his woman left him and he didn't want to live anymore, and he's crying. Seriously. The guy's sobbing, saying he didn't want to live anymore. At one point, he turned a corner and the truck was on two wheels, sideswiped a guardrail, came back down, bang, bang, sideswiped another guardrail on the other side of the road, and bang, bang, on two wheels and back on the road. One time he went off the road a ways and sideswiped a tree, just barely. I mean, yeah, it was pretty wild. And he passed a cop car that was parked off. It was a rural, very rural road, and nobody was out but us and that cop. It probably was like midnight, Saturday night. And he must have been going like 110 when he flew by that cop car. And of course, the cop car came out, lights came on, and by the time the cop car got out, we were way, way up the road. And now all of a sudden, he's not driving erratically, and now he's afraid he's going to get pulled over, which I thought he wanted to die. I don't know what this guy was up to. But I swear, he had the truck floored for 5 or 10 minutes. No brakes, no let off, completely floored. Went off the road a couple times. If it wasn't for that guardrail, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'll tell you that much. We're on two wheels. Going 100 or maybe faster than 100. Whatever the max speed of that truck was. And that happened, I think, 3 times, actually. Well, I did some quick thinking, and I knew the area well. And this guy all of a sudden was real worried that he's going to get pulled over, which was completely kind of didn't add up with his death wish, you know. I said, there's a fire break, like a dirt road, unused dirt road, right up around here. I says, if you go up there and pull in, he won't see you. And the guy says, yeah, right. He says, where is it? The guy finally started slowing down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna live. Maybe I'm gonna live. I said, it's right up here, and he slowed down, he killed his lights, and he pulled into that little dirt. It was like a dirt road that didn't go anywhere, you know, up in the mountains. And I knew all those roads up there. And he pulled in there and cut his motor off, cut his lights, and the cop car blew by us and just kept going, lights raging, you know, and blew right by us. And we're parked in the dark, and the guy's still crying. The truck's turned off. Part of me wanted to grab that guy and throttle him for almost getting me killed and making my guardian angels have to work all that much more. But I didn't do that. I got out of the truck first off just to get out. And I go, thank God. And the guy's in there crying. He's going on about his woman leaving him, and he had some other problems. And I said, well, why'd you have to, I argued with him, but why'd you get me killed? I don't know anything about you or your problems, you know? He didn't even answer. He didn't care, honestly. And so I started talking to this guy, and I started talking to him about Jesus Christ at that point. And he didn't really seem that drunk. I don't know what was going on with him. Deranged. And, you know, I said, look, I didn't live very far from there at that point. I said, let's go to my place. I said, I'll get you something to eat. You can crash out on the couch there. I got a few beers you can have. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All of a sudden, he seemed normal. I can't explain his behavior. So we drove to my house where I lived alone like I am now, even though I was like 30. But I preferred it. I'd rather, I had my reasons. Part of it was deliberate. So we went home and I got him something to eat. I cooked him something. I don't remember. Got him a beer. And he seemed fine. He started going on some more about his problems. And I spent quite a while talking to him about God at that point. I do remember that. And he was listening to me. and I was talking to him about Jesus Christ, and I talked to him about God that night quite a lot, and he crashed out on my couch, went to sleep there, and I got up in the morning, he was still around, and I cooked him breakfast and talked to him about God some more, and he got in his truck and he drove off, and I never saw that guy again. But I'll tell you what, that was the last time I ever did anything like that. You better believe it. I'm telling you, I am not exaggerating how close I came to getting killed with this guy. When I say the truck was going, I'd say at least 100 miles an hour, and was up on 2 tires more than once, bang, 2 tires, bang. And the guy he just kept it floored the whole time. 2 lessons learned. And back in the old days, people used to hitchhike. And you'd always hear these kind of stories. But I never thought it would happen to me. But yeah, I had a guy pull a knife on me, and right around Richmond, Virginia is where that happened. And I showed him that. It reminds me of the Crocodile Dundee scene. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Yeah. I didn't do that, though. I said, you better believe I told my army buddies about that. They thought I said, yeah, this is my knife. You like it? I said, I use it all the time. That's when he got really scared, when I said I use it all the time. And that's when I saw the look on his face, when I put it together that this guy was trying to probably rob me or something, And he put his knife away, and he looked like he was going to throw up. He looked so scared. And I just left this on my lap, and that's when I just pulled over. I said, I think you need to get out now, and that's it. And the other one, that was just a time I was very lucky I didn't get killed. But there is a God element to it, because you better believe I was praying in that truck. Praying a lot. And I didn't want this guy to see me afraid, because I figured that's what he was trying to do, but to this day, I don't know what was going on with this fellow. Don't know anything about it, then or now. And I just resigned myself. If I'm supposed to die tonight, I'm going to die. So I just resigned. I talked to the guy, but I don't remember what I was saying. I just remember praying, and I remember the cop saying, and what came after it, what I told you. And I do recall talking to the man at great lengths that night about God, and also in the morning. And he seemed like he was taking it in. So that's all. Just another day in paradise here. Not much to report. No scary stories or no inspirational whatever comes. You know what I mean? It's going to be what it is. I don't make things up for this channel. So if I think it's something and I go bing, I think I'll tell that story. Trust me, I've got a long list of things to talk about. I'll bet you I have 50 subjects written down or more to talk about, but just things to talk about, not experiences, so to speak. All right, thank you, and good night. When's the last time you hitchhiked? I actually hitchhiked, last time was probably, oh God, not that long ago. Well, yeah, probably 6 years ago. I got a ride from a guy and nothing came of it. Well, usually it isn't. You don't even see hitchhikers. In the older days, you see people hitchhiking all the time. Not anymore. It's very, 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 very rare you see a hitchhiker. So, good night.